Hello and welcome to another episode of The Brand Couch. My name is Robert and I'm here today with Melanie Coffee, who's the head of communications for a global technology company called Crayon. Melanie, tell me a bit about yourself.
Hi, well, first of all, thanks for having me at The Brand Couch. I'm very excited to be here. A little bit about me. So I'm from the US and live here in Norway. And as you said, overseeing communications internally and externally at Crayon. That is an IT services and innovation company. And so what that means is we help our customers with all their technological needs, whether it's like working in the cloud, moving to the cloud, dealing with heavy big data, or all the way up to security and AI and machine learning.
Oh, wow, okay. And I said it in the intro, you're global. How many countries are you guys in?
We're in nearly 40 countries, and we have about 3,300 employees. And so it's truly a global country.
And originally a Norwegian startup, right?
Yep, we started in Norway almost 20 years ago. It'll be 20 years in May. And started here in Oslo, and then we slowly grew out through the Nordics and then Europe, and then expanded across the globe.
Very cool. So today's about two things. It's about brands, how that translates to communication, but it's also about purpose, right? And purpose is cool because it's been a trend over the last couple of years, right? That you use purpose and it's something that new employees ask for. It's a talent thing. It's something that everybody wants a company to have, but only very few really act on it, right? We have numbers, right? We see that purpose-driven companies do very well, get better talent, better access to talent, get better traction when it comes to business. But also you guys have really created, or call it remade, your purpose. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about like, what is it? What does it mean?
Yes, all good questions. So we call it a vision statement, but I know that it's technically a purpose. Yeah. And so it's we believe in the power of technology to drive the greater good. And I think that it's inspirational enough to where it's been actually relatively easy to implement it in action globally. Because, the greater good, what does that mean? Making the world a better place, helping humanity, and it also transitions to serving our clients better, serving our customers. We make their world of work a better place as well. And so it's really finding that underlying purpose and why we do what we do and all that we do. So it really helps.
So if you look at that, if you just isolate, because obviously as a global tech firm, you believe in technology. Makes sense, right? But if you isolate the greater good part, right, is there a sustainability angle? Is there something that you require from let's say all of your 4,000 employees in the 40 countries? What is the difference for them today versus before you had this statement?
Yes, that's also a good question. It is anchored in our ESG strategy, and we found that because of the kind of company that we are, we noticed intrinsically that people give a lot back to the communities, their local communities, and whether it's in the form of food drives with the pandemic, helping out with COVID-19 relief efforts, whether it's going into schools, underserved schools, and providing IT equipment. All of these things that, they're great stories. And so I've come across this from a communications perspective and sharing our story. It was just something that we started to highlight around the company. I would hear about these stories, and then it's inspiring in that you hear, okay, well, in the UK, what happened is we had a new office, and so we took all the IT equipment and gave it to the school where all of its students are physically and mentally disabled. And so, you know what? That's what the UK did. What can we in the US do? And so we highlight these success stories. And our CEO, Melissa Mulholland, talks a lot about the power of technology to drive the greater good. And the greater good, she's seen firsthand through her personal story how much technology has, impacted her life.
So, because from a sort of brand strategy perspective, right, your purpose is something that vision statement, call it whatever you want. The thing that's deeply embedded in why you do what you do. Right? that should be something that never changes.
Yes.
And should also be something that comes from within the company. It shouldn't be something that you make up, right? It's not something you can say, oh, now we're here because. And you've been around, or Crayon has been around for 20 years.
Yes.
Would you say that the statement has more or less been a summary of something that's organically been present ever since Crayon started?
Yes, the statement is something that's been organically present since Crayon has started. I think it goes back to the Norwegian roots, and as far as this collaborative and team approach, the term dugnad, and how everybody pitches in to help. And so we started off as a really small company during the when we started off as a really small company, and we had really big competitors, and so really pulled together to just help one another to be successful, and that just permeated into just helping our environment, helping our customers, support our employees, and it just grew and grew and grew. So it was actually really great to identify as a purpose because it's something that we've done since the beginning.
So let's go back to the organic sort of part of it, right? When you implement this, how did you do that? Because obviously when you implement something new, which isn't necessarily new, but you put a sentence to it, you explain it, you have somewhat of a manifest, if you will, right? So how did you do it? Because one thing is that people are already doing it, another thing is to sort of link them to something that means something and that we actually written down. How did you go about it? Was it your responsibility, or did you involve how did you do it?
I believe that change comes from the top. Okay. And so I started with Melissa.
Yeah.
And her and I were closely aligned on the vision statement, on Crayon's purpose. And so in all of her quotes and all of her communications, we hit, power of technology to drive the greater good. And it was consistent, And then when it came to stories that embodied that, and we have a huge LinkedIn audience and extremely active on LinkedIn. So just making sure that messaging is consistent and looking for successes and proof points that help bolster that.
Did you get any pushback?
No. If we did, I didn't listen to it.
Okay.
If we did, it did not make it into long-term memory. Yeah.
No, it didn't happen. Cool. So to link it up to something else you did when it comes to brand in the last couple of years, I'm not sure that this was maybe just pre-Melissa or just post. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's 2 years ago when you guys did a bit of a rebrand.
Yes.
And there's a lot of talk about rebrands these days, right? So can you just sort of explain a bit what you did, because Crayon is still Crayon, right? And you're still doing the business you did before the rebrand. Was the purpose a part of it? Did you do what did you do? What was it that you labeled rebrand? What was it?
Yes, we did. We called it a brand refresh, and so we have a new logo, a completely new website, and we really just needed a visual presence and a visual identity that reflected the company that we are. Because before it was a little bit dated.
Right.
And so we needed something fresh. We needed something that reflected our innovation and how we're kind of like a next generation IT company. And the vision statement was born out of that project.
Right, nice. So okay, new CEO.
Yes.
New purpose, or refined purpose, if you will. New identity.
Yes.
What's next?
There's nothing stopping us.
There you go.
Yeah.
Huh, cool. Do you have any sort of advice for other, let's say, similar companies, leaders in their field that do what you do when it comes to these kind of activities? Because we're 2 years in, right? You have the benefit of a company that's been organically part of what you're trying to do now.
Yes.
What are sort of the barriers, and are there things you'd say, ooh, had I thought about that before, I would have do this? And sort of top tip from your end, sort of how to approach a rebrand.
I think the best thing,
refresh, if you will.
I think the best thing to approach a rebrand, refresh, is making sure the foundation is solid. And bringing your extended leadership team with you along on the journey,
right? Yeah.
So that you have that buy-in early, and that everybody is working from the same playbook. Yeah. And it might seem that it takes a lot of time to do it well, but you will save so much time down the road, because everybody will have a well-defined North Star. and we all agreed to it. You have buy-in, you have ownership, collective ownership, and so it just makes it a lot easier to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and I think what you just said is really addressing the core point of having a successful rebrand, right? Because obviously it ties into what you said in the very beginning. It starts at the top.
Yes.
And you need to sort of get people onboarded from the very beginning. Keep them onboarded, because it's not a marketing activity, right? It's an organizational activity. Right?
Yes.
Melanie, we have all of this time, but it's confined to 10 minutes.
Yes.
And I think our time is up. And I also think this is a great, quick conversation about brands, purpose, new directions, and a Norwegian tech success, which is one of those global players that we need to know more about. So, thank you so much, guys. If you want to check out Crayon, you can do that at crayon.com. You can find Melanie Coffee on LinkedIn. Check out what she has to say. And with that, thank you very much.